I'm going to be honest about my view about this president. I know a lot of people think this president's been the best friend Israel's ever had. This ain't one of these people that view that. This president, with this National Security Advisor, at the time when she was not Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, forced Israel to have an election on the West Bank and the Gaza Strip against Israel's wishes. Against the wishes of El Fatah, forced them to have an election with Hamas participation. So Israel was against the election. When Israel conceded the election, they required Hamas participation, even with Hamas not renouncing violence. Which, if you look around the world when you're making transformative elections, at least those who participate have to make certain commitments to principles to participating in the democratic process. So they force Israel against its own wishes to have an election, and El Fatah, and they force them, when they do force them to have the elections, to demand Hamas participation. I cannot think, when you think right now, of some of the top 2 or 3 single strategic threats to Israel. It's a Hamas sitting in the belly of Israel in the Gaza Strip. And the National Security Advisor, on the day in which the elections happened, is working out on an elliptical trainer, sees across the ticker tape on CNN that Hamas won, and she thinks that she's shocked, has to be wrong. And she's the one that requires it, with obviously the approval of the Commander-in-Chief, known as the President of the United States. That's not what friendship is about. Friendship with Israel is about one thing. You're never asking Israel to do something. You have to challenge sometimes. You have to be honest with your friends. Not everything Israel wants always is right. But when Israel says this is a threat to our security, you don't challenge that. You tell me, I mean, you know, at a certain point, if you can't get the difference between Sunni and Shiite right, and you can't get the border, I think he said between Afghanistan and Iraq, was it? Right? What did he say? Pakistan. You can't get each of these right. Where's the presumption that you're an expert in foreign policy? You may hang out with experts in foreign policy, but that's not how foreign policy is conducted. Let me give you 4 examples. When Barack Obama said we needed a timeline on Iraq, George Bush and John McCain attacked him before they adopted it. When Barack Obama said we need to have strategic strikes in Pakistan, George Bush and John McCain attacked them before they adopted it. When Barack Obama said you have to have a conversation with Iran, George Bush and John McCain attacked them before they adopted it. And when Barack Obama attacked the surge in Iraq but said you need one in Afghanistan, Bush and McCain attacked them before they adopted it. Now, I would ask you, given this short of campaign in 1 year, and on 4 specific areas where Barack Obama was ahead of the curve each time, I ask you who knows more about foreign policy. Part of what Jan Schakowsky, Robert Wexler, Howard Berman, Henry Waxman, all of us are doing is going out and giving, because all of us have an ambassadorial role and surrogate role, is to help people see why Barack could be a friend, and why, in my own view, and this is having both an Israeli father, spending my life, childhood in Israel, but also working in administration on Arab-Israeli issues, why I think this administration has not been good, and why I do think Barack can be very helpful. Here's what I think is going on, and I was just in Israel for the 60th anniversary. Here's my 2 cents for whatever it's worth. Israel has always, since '48, had lived with an existential threat in one shape or another. '67 still had those existential threats that were slightly different than they were '48 to '67. Post-'67, there was kind of a period of time. '73 woke them up to that fact that it wasn't what they thought it was delusional. And then they dealt with different strategic threats. Iran and Hezbollah, and also Hamas, but those 2 principally, have fundamentally, although, as I said, they've had existential threats, the capacity in what they have to change that. And given that Israel's ability to handle those existential threats, they've always lived on a hair-trigger security position, as we saw in '73 dramatically, meaning another 48 hours, and history may have been different. The Syrian take commanders making a mistake on the Golan Heights, gave him 72 hours, that had it gone the other way, history might have been different. So, living like that with these type of existential threats on that type of hair trigger, and having a person who is so new and so unfamiliar to them, makes them run for a comfort of the known. And I don't think, this is again, this short period of time in Israel of only 4 days, but only about 2 months ago, I don't think John McCain is so much known as the people that John McCain knows are known. Okay? I personally, I don't think John McCain's been a distinguished friend of Israel. I've been in Congress 6 years. I was in the White House for 7 years. I ain't done. I asked him, well, okay, write down on a piece of paper. You give me 3 things he's done. He knows people who have done things. Yes, he has coffee periodically when he's in New York with Henry Kissinger. I can find a lot of other people. I mean, Henry Kissinger is brilliant, but I can find some other people I'd have coffee with. Give me Dennis Ross, who went with Israel with Barack. I not only have coffee, I'll carry Dennis Ross's baggage anywhere he wants to go. Give me Michael Oren, who, if you've read his book, 6 Days of War, which I think is one of the better books on the 6-Day War, and his pieces in the Wall Street Journal constantly. John McCain is perceived as a friend only because he hangs with people who have been involved in the Mideast. Barack is doing that too, and I think Dennis Ross, just to name one of them, just one, has been an incredible asset and thinker about the Arab-Israeli conflict and the national security, the larger Mideast. And then second, Israel doesn't know somebody who has not been around, given Iran and Hezbollah and the hair trigger security situation they have. That is not, I wouldn't say illegitimate, I don't know what the right word is. I can understand their nervousness. I think it's misplaced. And I will tell you,